Hello, everybody. Welcome. Our spiritual practice teaches us how to feel inside and have awareness inside. Hi, Anju. As we do things outside of ourselves, as we navigate our lives. And so today in class, we'll be playing with that, this idea of connecting inside, literally feeling like our deep core, like our deep physical connection, but also feeling our consciousness and our breath as we reach outward and expand. And in my experience, when I can feel those two things happening at the same time, it's really fun. So I hope you have that experience too. Let's begin. If you haven't already, you're welcome to spread out a blanket. It's not essential, but I find it's cozy, it gives nice tactile feedback, and it also prevents you from gripping and clenching and pushing too far in poses like Virabhadrasana 1 or Adho Mukha Svanasana. The sticky mat can kind of encourage a lot of doership. And we're saying goodbye to doership and just staying in the flow, at least to the best of our ability. So spread out your blanket if you want to, and then turn on over to your right and take your time, gently making your way onto your back. You're welcome to bend the knees, place soles of feet to the earth if that's more comfortable. Close the eyes if that feels calming and safe. And start to feel the body landing in your body footprint. Feel how the earth rises up to support you. And maybe there's a sense of the weight of your body, the space that your physical form takes up. And give yourself permission to relax. Give yourself permission to put everything else on hold. Something really magical happens when we can ungrip the thoughts and the planning and the stresses and find space. And so use the next several breaths to set that intention for yourself and any other intention that bubbles up from the heart. This is our opportunity to connect with the inner self. From that place, everything else figures itself out and flows as it needs to, even if it's not how we wish it to. And start to notice your relationship with your breath without any judgment. It's pretty common to control it, to push it, to pull it. And see if you can let that go, just like we're letting our thoughts go. Try breathing through the nose, keeping the mouth closed. You can even press the tongue into the roof of the mouth, creating a seal, helping the sinuses open for a nice, smooth, full, natural nasal breath. And start to feel the breath coming into the body. Maybe just for fun, imagine the breath has a color, and you can see how the breath spreads out in the lungs. And then even though the breath does leave the body as you exhale, use that as an opportunity to drop into the center of the heart. You can even imagine the tiniest little tip of a pin point at the center of the heart, so it takes a lot of focus to sink down into that teeny little spot. Of course, we know the energetic heart is vaster than the whole universe. And that's okay to feel that and let that expand. And then just imagine that little pinpoint focal point helping you drop down and burrow in to the heart. As you breathe, start to notice the sensation through the back of the rib cage, and imagine you're trying to imprint each of your ribs into this warm sand that we've all been transported to. And feel how the breath expands one rib at a time, and you can gently press it into the sand. And of course, this is the space between the shoulders and down to the mid back. You don't need to press the low back down where the rib cage ends. And become very interested in that bottom rib. And the bottom rib is a floating rib, which means it doesn't connect into the rib cage itself. It's a lot shorter, and you can feel it in the bottom of the thoracic vertebra, just above the lumbar curve. Most of us have a tendency to have that bottom rib lifting gently away from the mat. So see if, as you breathe without doership, without intensity, see if you can breathe a little life into the bottom of the rib cage. That's where the back of the diaphragm connects around the spine. See if you can feel that bottom rib inching towards your blanket. And if you're doing that, there should be a sense of the spine elongating. There should be more room to tuck the chin and find space through the back of the neck. And there's still a little natural curve at the lumbar, but it gets longer. Take a few breaths just to feel that space. Feel the spine, feel the relationship between the rib cage and the pelvis. And then we'll maintain the work that you've started to turn on, but we'll up the ante a little bit. And so if you haven't already, bend your knees, walk your feet in towards the sits bones. Feel the back of the sacrum heavy. Feel that bottom rib pressing without building tension. And then watch your next inhale. As you exhale, unweight the right foot. The foot stays down, but that extra work ties into the core. And then inhale, set it down. Exhale, swap feet. And take a few on your own. And notice what happens when you unweight your foot and press the bottom rib down into the mat at the same time. And again, the pressing of the bottom rib should not round the spine. It should not flatten the lumbar. It's just a neutralizing factor. Take a couple more marches in place. You can switch the breath if you want to try lifting on the inhale. And then gently melt the feet out, reach the arms overhead, natural inhale. And then as you exhale, lengthen the hands and the feet apart and see if you can feel that diaphragm sucking up, hollowing out the belly as it presses into the lungs. On your next inhale, start to gently pull elbows and knees and rolling onto the left side. That should be towards me. And notice how the inhale fills the space of the back of the ribs all the way down to that bottom rib. And then next exhale, stretch everything out. So even though you're reaching out in all directions, let the exhale help you drop into that point at the center of the heart. And then inhale, curl everything in, rolling to the other side. And we're going to repeat this for a little while so you can flow on your own, exhaling to stretch out. Try to feel the bottom ribs so there's no extra arching. And then inhaling to roll onto the side. And start to slow down the movement and slow down the breath. And that actually is really strengthening. Welcome to everyone who joined a little late. Glad you're here. And this is a little different than we might be used to using our breath. So notice how inhaling in that curling up position awakens awareness in a new way. Notice how exhaling in that expansive position balances those opposites of feeling inside as you're reaching outward. And let this be an opportunity to start to melt away tension. Doesn't matter how far you go. There's no benefit to like curling in on yourself more, right? So let it be effortless. Let it be natural. Let it be soothing. The next time you come onto the back, let's pause there. Arms overhead still, and watch a couple of breaths and notice the sensation of the inhale, and imagine if you can just let the body dissolve as you inhale. No reaching, no doership. And then as you exhale, let the fingers and toes reach apart and see if you can get a little hollowness in the center of the body. You can even bring your fingertips there to feel what's happening. But I find that reaching the hands and the feet apart as I exhale is really helpful. So I would only bring your hands there at the very end of the exhale so you don't miss that opportunity. Just one or two more breaths here. Okay, we're going to add on to the rolling from side to side. So take your natural inhale. Exhale to reach out just as you did before. And then inhale, roll onto the side just like you did before. Here's where we're adding on, and it's a little weird, so be patient. So we're going to explore Ardha Chandrasana from our side. So imagine the floor is in front of you. Start to kick the left foot forward, planting your left foot on the sole or on the invisible floor beneath you. You can flex the foot, of course, because you're standing on the ground, obviously. And then push into the invisible floor and exhale to gently start to reach out. The left hand is parallel to the left leg. And then just like when you're balancing, the right hip starts to peel open, but it might not open all the way, right? Because all of our bodies are different. And then inhale back to the fetal position. And let's try a few of those pulses. Exhale into side lying Ardha Chandrasana, really working the left leg as if you were standing on the ground and letting everything else be natural. And then inhale, fetal position. Try this a few more times on your own. Let it be relaxed. You don't want to build any strain, but we want to wire this pathway in because we'll do this whole sequence standing. You don't even have to think about how that's possible. Just trust it. And the next time you curl into the fetal position, pause there. With your next exhale, we'll go back to the X on our back, and then we'll go to the other side. So inhale, roll to the other side. Exhale, kick the right foot down to the invisible floor beneath you, and start to open up. Don't expect that the left hip is going to land on the floor. Instead, try to feel connected to your deep core. And then inhale back to fetal position. Exhale, side lighting, Ardha Chandrasana. Move really nice and slow, and try to feel how the rest of the body stacks or unfurls with that bottom leg sticking out, right? You might notice there's a little limitation in the hips or a tendency to push a little too far, and see if you can let that go and let it be just as gentle as the rolling you were doing before. Next time you're in the fetal position, you can exhale, open up to your X onto the back. We'll take one mini Shavasana here, so let everything soften. Try to let go of everything that just happened and sink into the breath. And the exhale, you naturally soften and release. See if you can feel that as you visualize your body expanding. 2 at once. Focus deep within as you feel yourself reaching out as well. Okay, let's curl over to the left side and gently push up. Plant the hands and tuck the knees under so you're in tabletop position, and now the right side of the body should be towards me. And take a moment to paw out the mat and be really, really gentle here. Imagine, we've got a lot of invisible floors and ceilings here. Imagine that you can feel the ceiling against your back. Just like we push the bottom rib into the floor, play with pushing the bottom rib into that invisible ceiling, and just notice if you can get a little extra length in the spine without rounding, right? It's not a cat pose. If you've catted, you've gone too far. So it's really subtle. It should feel like a paralleling of the rib cage and the pelvis, and that like the tailbone and the sits bones can really reach back. From here, lower the forearms and let the hands be really soft, right? There's more weight on the elbows, so see if you can soften through the hands. Shatila, can you still hear me? Okay, cool, just checking. Make some circles over the elbows and check in with the neck and the upper shoulders. They shouldn't really not be doing any work here. So if you're feeling those muscles engage, even if it doesn't feel tight or bad, see if you can isometrically drag the elbows back towards the knees and wide towards the back corners of the mat, and notice if that helps turn on the lats and the lower traps. Circle in the opposite direction. Okay. Freeze, because I don't want you to change anything with your hands. I can't see online folks' hands perfectly, but everyone in here's hands are really supple and natural. Look at your hands and just see where they naturally are, right? It's not like the flattening starfish hands. They're almost like palming basketball hands. My guess is yours are like that too. Try to keep those soft, supple hands as you place one at a time underneath your shoulders. Right, so there's going to be more weight on the pinky side and the base of the wrist. The middle 3 knuckles are going to lift away. A little bend in your elbows. If you're not sure, come down to the forearms, look again, and try again. And then when you think you've done it, it should feel really nice. It should feel really supportive. We'll awaken our deep core with some table glide back. So flatten the tops of the feet down. Take a moment to find that bottom rib, find your breath, and use your next exhale to drag the right foot back without moving anything else in the body. Inhale, bring the knee in, and exhale, glide the foot back effortlessly. Do this a few times and see how gentle you can make it. The easier it feels, the more the deep core is working. Go figure, right? It goes against everything we think. The next time the leg slides back, pause there, tuck the right toes under, shift the weight into the soft right hand, just as it was before. Circle the left fingertips forward, up, and back. And as the arm starts to circle down, thread it between the right hand and the right arm. Bring the shoulder down. Push into the bottom arm, bring right hand to left hand, and then gently start to stack the top leg and tuck your shirt in if you feel like you need that. You're not all being recorded, but I feel like I need to do that. And then set the top foot down, place top hand in front of the face, and go right back into that arm circle. And then right back into the thread the needle stack, and move at your own pace, just playing between those two shapes. Try moving slower, try moving more fluidly, and start to play with exhaling as you lift the top leg, and see if you can feel the diaphragm lifting into the rib cage, pulling on the top of the psoas as the leg reaches out. The next time you're in this sort of fallen Urdhva Chandrasana, I hope that never happens in real life, set the toes down, place the right hand in front of the face, and gently go back into the spiral. I forgot about my most favorite part of this whole sequence. Circle the arm back and down just like you did before, but this time, as the left hand comes down underneath the shoulder, effortlessly glide the left foot back into like the sweetest plank you've ever done in your life. And just pause there and gently sway hips from side to side. Paw out the mat a little bit and see if you can release any gripping so it feels effortless. And then from center, drop knees, hips to heels, palms face up, forehead melt. If this isn't comfortable and restful, you can try cat pose or whatever you want. With the palms face up, imagine that you're really receptive here. If there's any grace flowing in this moment, you're present and available to catch it and receive it. And let's float back up to table and do that on the second side. First, begin by finding those soft hands. So if it's helpful to bring the forearms down first, you're welcome to do that. Gentle sways can help, little pause. And it's just like palming a basketball. So there really is a lot of space underneath the hand, just like you have an arch in your hand, like you have an arch in your foot. And you do. So let's use it. Find the bottom rib, neutral spine, neutral pelvis, and then use your exhale to glide effortlessly left foot back. And then inhale it in. If you feel a lot of shifting in the hips, do less. Move slower. We don't want big muscles overcompensating here. We really want to call on our deepest core muscles. Feels like a turning on a light in the navel. The next time the toe comes back, tuck the toes under, shift the weight over into your left paw, and circle right arm up and back. Nice circle, and then it threads through, shoulder down. You know the drill. We've done this for a few weeks now, so open up. The hands can do whatever they want. I like stacking them and pressing them together. You can do the circuit hands from last week or keep the left hand in front of you, and then we go back to circling the other way. And this is sort of an exploration on your own, as smooth as possible, so the two shapes just bleed into one another. Become extra conscious in the fallen Urdhva Chandrasana and notice the sensation in the hips, that stacking sensation. Notice the little wobbles as the standing leg tries to balance you. Try to relax into that, feeling supported and safe. Doesn't matter how high that top leg lifts, just let it go where it naturally wants to go, not where the mind wants to put it. The next time the right arm is circling up and back, we'll take that right into our effortless plank. So as it comes down, almost feel the right hand gliding forward and let the right leg glide back evenly. Pause in plank. Can place the knees down at any time if that feels kind to your body. Springy in the elbows. And then knees down, Melt the hips to the heels, forehead to mat, palms up, and just receive whatever is available to you in this moment without any expectation or judgment. Float up to table. I apologize, I never told you to hit play on the first track, but now you can hit play on the second track if you want to. That was just extra meditative silent. You can keep it silent. Feel free to grab a sip of water. My body's asking me to do that. Okay. From tabletop, if they're not already, tuck your toes under and start to explore the feet a little bit by circling the hips towards the heels. And notice the more the hips come towards the heels, the more the feet stretch. You don't want there to be any pain in the big toes, so be really kind and receptive. Circle the other way. And then bring the hips all the way to the heels. Walk the hands in towards the knees until you can pop the knees up and balance like a little eggy. Let the tailbone drop so the low back is nice and long. Take one moment here. If you feel up for it, you can play with a little balance. There will be some quivering in the toes and the ankles, and try to relax into it and actually appreciate it. And then melt the hands down. Float the hips up, deep bend in the knees, soft spine. If it's inviting, sway the hips from side to side and see if you can release through the muscles in the low back. And then anchor the big toes, shift the weight back into the heels, squat the hips down a little bit, and then slowly start to imagine sending the hips forward. Actually send the hips forward and notice how that enlivens the legs and starts to stack the spine. One vertebra at a time. Little extra awareness on that bottom rib vertebra. Notice when it stacks. Let the head and neck come up last, but try to feel very supported through the neck so there's no strain. And let's just pause at standing and take in the experience for a moment. Slowly start to shift the weight forward onto the big toes. Heels don't have to lift high. They can lift as high as you want. And notice if your tendency is for your ankles to wobble out or wobble in. And then counteract that. Sweep the arms back. Let the heart get really spacious. And then anchor the heels down. Reach the hips back. Long spine, Utkatasana. Let's take a couple of these pulses, but move extra slow. And you probably know what I'm about to say. Slower is stronger. But notice how moving slower awakens more awareness. See if you can drop your awareness down to that center point of the heart. As you move, try to feel both your inner world and this outer exploration. Nice, Anju. That looks so integrated and conscious. Everyone looks great. The next time you sit back, pause there and allow the right hand to drop and swing back and allow the spine to follow. And then drop the hand forward and up, and then other one. And add in a little bounce with the knees. Whatever feels natural to you. Just make sure you're keeping weight in the heels so none of this is going into the front of the knees. And then once you're back at center, float up into your tippy toe Tadasana one last time. And notice, I don't know about you guys, but that last one definitely was starting to burn in my legs. Notice if this can be in a welcome respite, though it's still challenging. Okay, turn to face me and stand in the middle of the mat. So remember when I said we were going to do the floor sequence standing up? That moment is now. So here's what that's going to look like. The exhale is us reaching out. And here's what fetal position looks like when you stand up. It's really fun. If you want to get a little dramatic, you can let the front arm swing back. And I call this discus thrower. Exhale up. Inhale other. Let's all be discus throwers. That's better than fetuses. And start to play with this on your own. Nice, Jatila. That pose was for you. That's why you had to come today. So the exhale through center, and then inhale really spacious through the back as you curl to one side. Move nice and slow. Let the feet guide the way. And imagine all of your joints following, right? So first the knees, then the hips, then all the joints of the spine. And the arm is just like the icing on the cake at the very end. Even though the back heel is lifted, be really aware of the back heel reaching back so that you've got a lot of support for that knee. And the next time you're at X in the center, pause there and imagine your shoulders have like just arrived on your rib cage for the first time from space. It's kind of like this. You can do it. Yeah, do it. Good. And feel that support from below, from the rib cage, and the receptivity of the shoulders as they land onto the rib cage. Bend the knees a little bit, anchor the big toes. Shift the weight over to the right. Notice how the right side of the body almost like catches you. And then shift the weight over to the left. Let's give our arms a little break. Let's see here. Let's do one arm at a time. So if we shift from side to side, lift the arm that you're shifting towards. Try to feel that whole side catching you. And then there's the release as you toss over to the other side. This is going to help us with our balancing. Make sure the standing leg, the big toe is anchoring. And the arch will just naturally lift. Maybe you can feel that. Be really soft with the shoulder. It's almost like you're not doing anything with the arm. It just naturally follows with the momentum. So if you feel a lifting in the shoulder, you're doing too much. Ah, nice. And then let's come back to center. Arms are heavy. Let yourself land in your footprints. Close the eyes if that feels okay for you. And then gently start to push into the left foot. And as you push down into the left foot, notice how there's a tendency for the right shoulder to sort of lift and go back. And then push down into the right foot and notice how that flow happens in the opposite way. Push down into the foot, expand and circle back. And then do way less. This is just supposed to release the arms, release the shoulders. It can even be like an invisible movement if that's what the body's asking for. Okay. Before we add on our Urdhva Chandrasana, I'm really excited to do some curtsies. So let's get ready to meet whatever royalty you'd be most excited to meet. For me, I think it would be the elves from Lord of the Rings. So I invite you to get ready for that, or could be a real person. Start to bend your left knee and sweep the right leg behind as the right arm sweeps in front. Push down into the left foot, rising up. Bring the right foot wherever it wants to land in tree. And then step the right foot down, curtsy the other way, say hello to your royalty, and then push down into the right foot. And it's gotta be elves if you're doing tree pose. So anyway, sorry I gave you the option. It has to be elves. Take a few on your own. Of course, moving as slowly as you can, because that takes a lot more intelligence in the foot, in the ankle, all the muscles of balance. Beautiful. And if the body starts to make a shape that looks a little different than mine, that's fine, as long as your joints feel supported. Let it be really nice and flowy, and feel how your tree stacks from the ground up. The goal is never to go deeper, but sometimes as the body warms, there is that desire. So if you're enjoying that on your curtsy, you can really impress the elves. And we'll do one more to each side. So if you want to take extra time in your tree and hold that and enjoy, you're welcome to, or in your curtsy. And after you've balanced out sides, bring both feet to the earth, relax the arms. You can hold here and just breathe, or go back into the pushing into the foot and letting the opposite shoulder circle back. Sometimes the body craves stillness, sometimes it craves a little massage, so try to be sensitive. What is your body asking for? Or maybe it's your mind, right? Maybe your mind would be soothed by stillness or by the movement. Yeah, if there's something else your body's craving, I see a forward fold here in the room. Please be open to those sensations. If you are moving, let the movement get less and less and less until your movements are invisible. Okay, option for a sip of water. I really like this track. We can totally just stay on this track. If you want something a little more upbeat, you're welcome to go to the next track. I'll leave it to you. It's pretty upbeat, yeah. Okay, I want to demo what it looks like when you did the floor sequence standing before you do it, so you don't have to think at all. Exhale, X, that one's easy. Inhale, you've already done this. And then we add on, you did this on the floor, exhale for your Ardha Chandrasana. And then inhale back to discus. Exhale up. And then we go to the other side. It's okay if you forget what comes next. We do more of the discus than any other movement, right? It's in between each X and each Ardha Chandrasana. And we're going to repeat this a lot on your own so you can get into the flow of it. If you ever want to pause and hold something, please do. If you want to add, subtract, this is your time. This is the last thing that we're doing before we start to make our way to the floor to cool down. So if your body's craving something, be inspired. Listen. Here we go. So reach the arms up. Take a moment. Feel that bottom rib, right? When you're standing and you press the bottom rib back. Here, I'm going to demo just in case. I'll come even closer. Okay. This is what it looks like. So here's my bottom rib. And there's me pushing it back. I still have a lumbar curve, but my core just instantly turns on, not in a grippy way. Take a moment to feel that. Take a couple of exhales to feel that work and notice if it helps you feel centered, supported. And the next time you exhale, that's our last one. We'll inhale over to the right for discus. And then exhale, shift the weight into the right foot and slowly push down to fan the body open any amount. And then inhale back to discus. And exhale to your X. Inhale over to the other side. And then exhale, shift the weight, find your drishti. Can start small at first and then inhale back to discus. Exhale up. And inhale the other way. And now start to move with your own breath. I'm always going to encourage you to slow down. And my wish is for you to feel as connected as possible in your Urdhva Chandrasana. It really doesn't matter how close you are to the earth. Try to feel how the limbs are talking to the deep core, how they're supported by the deep core. Maybe there's a craving to hold it or to go a little further. Never the goal, but just follow the cravings of your body. Everyone looks absolutely perfect. And see if you can relax into it. Nice, Laura. Way to go, Mom. That was awesome. We'll have a few more breaths, so if you do want a chance to hold, I invite you to play with that on the next round. And so amazing. I haven't really cued anything with alignment, but I'm just seeing how perfect all of your alignment is because you're allowing the deep core to support you. Really looks amazing. Wow, I wonder if you would go on forever. No one's stopping. It's awesome. So feel free to go on forever. If it's feeling good, I do not want to get in the way of that. If you feel like you've done what you need to do, we can meet in a wide Tadasana. No need to rush. And if you're following along with the music, go to the 4th track. I think it's Inner Sanctum. It's something more relaxing just to get ready for the cool down. Gently heel toe the feet in underneath the hips. Close the eyes and just notice any sense of movement through the body. Sometimes when we go through those dynamic flowing sequences, you can actually still feel them flowing through you. Kind of like after chanting kirtan, you can still feel the vibrations even in the silence. And grab your blocks. You might not need them, but we just want to be really kind and gentle with ourselves. You can place the blocks in front of you. Stay facing me. And imagine you're a sumo wrestler. Let your weight shift from side to side. Lift the opposite foot effortlessly. You don't want to feel tension. So you're like sumo wrestler in space. I think I'm feeling silly today, so that's cool. Let the feet widen as much as your hip strength can support. And then let the feet start to stick to the mat and just sway the body from side to side. And come back to center. Turn the feet forward so the second toes are parallel with one another. The heels come out. Anchor the big toes and suction the outer edges of the foot down with the big toes anchored, and notice how the inner arches lift and the talus, the center of the ankle, balances at the center of the heel. Bend the knees a little bit, bring some weight into the heels, and imagine you've got big thick rubber bands on the ankles. Pick them up and start to stretch them forward, letting the whole body lengthen. And then bend deeply into the knees. Send the hips back a little as you release forward. Hands come to the blocks at first. You can adjust where they are. I like having them kind of underneath my heart. Bend into one knee at a time, swaying the hips from side to side, and try to avoid the urge to go into a stretch, and instead try to feel how the legs connect to one another. So as you bend into one leg and straighten the other, you can almost feel their connection, the base of the pelvis. Start to notice the exhale moment when the diaphragm lifts. You might even feel that gently pulling on the connections into the legs. You can let the spine sway gently. And then if you find a moment that's really interesting, pause there and breathe. I really enjoy gently rocking the weight forward and back on my feet so that I transfer the sensation from the hamstrings forward to the adductors and vice versa. And then if you are holding and exploring something, try to do the same thing on the other side, but it's okay if it's not exact. And then heel toe the feet in a little bit extra. Bring one of your blocks back because it's going to be your little toadstool. Bring your hips down to your block and take a moment in a supported malasana. I like the middle height, but I have the shortest shins ever, so I don't know what works for most people. Try different heights. Bring your awareness to your big toe, and that same thing that we did in our straddle of suction cupping the outer edge of the foot down, letting the arches lift. You can bring the hands to the inside of the legs and be really gentle here, but just feel how the expansion through the chest and the spine almost encourages the legs to reach open, and then gently squeeze into that, right? So knees squeeze into the arms, and see if you can actually use that to draw the sits bones together slightly and lengthen up through the spine. And then stay supple. So imagine that strength kind of like a tall piece of bamboo where it's really strong, but it can still sway from side to side. And then gently move your block out of the way so you can bring your hips all the way down. Bring the soles of the feet together. Heels are going to go a little further forward just so that this is nice and soft, and then touch your big toes towards one another so they're mirror image. Stay right here, or if you want to gently circle on the sits bones, you can. You might want to go forward a little, and that's fine, but I do recommend gently continuing to move so there's not a sense of like pushing too far. Circle the other way if you're exploring that. Arms can do whatever feels natural here. And we can set up for our restorative pose. So pause the music. I have to run to do it. And then if you've got a bolster's great. If you don't have a bolster, that's okay. We're going to make one. So I make one out of 2 blocks and a folded up blanket on top. You might not have 2 blocks, so it can be a stack of a bunch of blankets, or I don't love pillows because they might be too squishy. Towels are nice and firm, so take your time grabbing what you've got, and I'll demo what we're doing. So we'll be doing a restorative deer pose, and it's kind of like Bharadvajasana. I enjoy it most when my bottom leg is perpendicular to the support, right? But of course adjust so you're as comfortable as possible. And then there's a stagger in the legs, so the back leg is off of the foot, right? Take a moment here to let the right sit bone lift and lower a couple of times, and you don't want to create tension in the right hip, but just notice how that's going in the hip socket. Less is more. And then start to turn towards your prop, and as you turn, allow the body to rotate so that top leg starts to rotate inward. For me in this pose, I'm more exploring a length on the outside of the bottom leg, but I want the back leg to really stay with me, so this whole thing is pretty gentle. Okay, so make any adjustments with the angle of the leg or the rotation of the thigh, and then start to drape the body down onto your support system. Check in with the arms. You don't want them to be taking any weight here. You can bring the left ear towards your props. I enjoy having my hands gently resting on my for me, it's underneath the blankets and on the blocks, but you could bring the forearms down or make a diamond with the hands. Just make sure the shoulders feel relaxed and soft. And then before we release completely, gently push the bottom leg down into the earth, and notice how that turns on the muscles in the leg, and notice what changes in the deep core. Maybe you can feel a little brightness. Maybe you have a little extra awareness of the obliques and the rib cage. And then imagine we can just dial that back 1% at a time. So you don't release completely all at once, but you just let it softly go. And in these restorative poses, you really don't want to be feeling much of a stretch. So if you feel this at one place in the body, I recommend coming out of it a little so that it's like you could fall asleep here. When you wake up, you would feel awesome instead of a little weird. There is an option that's not going to be for everyone, but I really love it. You can't really see that I'm doing it, but you have the option to bend the bottom knee and reach back for the bottom foot with the hidden arm, the left arm that's behind your prop. Just adds a little bit of quad opening and a hip flexor stretch, so you're welcome to try that. Make sure you don't feel that in your low back. And sometimes it might feel hard to do nothing. When there are so many benefits to these restful moments of pause where we can absorb and integrate, and we don't even necessarily know that that's happening. And so let your focus drop down to that point at the center of the heart, and you can imagine, or maybe you believe, there's that trust that this is exactly what you need right now. And we'll be here for one more minute. It's about 5 or 6 breaths. And if you're holding the foot, you can gently release it. Place both hands underneath the shoulders and as effortlessly as possible begin to reverse melt back up to seated. Take a moment to twist to the left in a classic Bharadvajasana. Let the spine be long. And then kick both legs forward, pausing in Dandasana and just notice the sensation through the left side of the body or anywhere you feel it. Take a moment to play with that bottom rib and just notice if that helps you sit up straighter and find the deep core, find effortless support of the neck and head. And then grab your whatever you used, bring it over to the other side. And now the right leg is perpendicular to your support. And then bring the left leg below the right foot. As you start to rotate to the right, allow the left hip to lift and then lower it back down. And just do that a couple of times, exploring the hip socket. Less is more. Can play with gently squeezing the foot and the thigh towards one another and notice that changes the sensation in the hip, the sensation in the pelvic floor and the spine. The next time the hip lifts, you can keep it lifted. Use your hands to frame the prop and take a couple of breaths upright, just allowing the spine to gently twist. Notice how the rotation in the upper body changes the sensations in the bottom leg, and make sure it's not too tense or intense on the outside of the right leg. Gently press the right leg down into the earth so those muscles are nice and active. It's going to limit your flexibility in a good way. Keep that push down as you gently make your way down to the bolster, right ear to the bolster. So most of the twist is in the outside of the right hip and not so much in the spine and the neck. Make sure your arms feel relaxed so the elbows can be close to the prop, close to the body. Nothing riding up the neck towards the shoulders. You can even hug your prop almost like you have your favorite stuffed animal from when you were a little kid. Mine was a tiger. And then notice how the breath is a massage. And you don't have to breathe into tension. Just let the breath flow and let it carry away any resistance in the body, mind, or energy channels. Just like on the other side, you have the option to reach the right arm back towards the left foot, bend the left knee a little extra, and hold on to the toe or the foot or whatever is comfortable. And you only want to do this if it feels good in the front of the hip and the quadricep. If you feel it in the low back, you might be going a little too far. So you can explore and adapt and release. And we'll relax here. And we'll stay here for one more minute. Gently release the foot if you've got it. Start to place your hands as a support and eventually make your way up to seated. Take your time, kick the legs forward or sit however is comfortable for you. You can sit cross-legged and take a moment to feel any sense of spaciousness that's been unlocked, especially through the lateral edges of the body and the spiral line of the body. You might even feel like you can sit up a little taller. If there's any last movements the body's craving, maybe a little forward fold or whatever you want, please be my guest. And then we're heading to Shavasana. So you can dim the lights, put on any warm layers, grab any of your favorite Shavasana props. I highly encourage something under the knees for extra support. Make sure the elbows don't hyperextend. And as long as you may have some blocks nearby, sometimes if your blocks have some weight, it can feel really nice to have one at the top of the head as a grounding force, or even one on the belly. So you're welcome to try that. You can also rest the hands on the blocks. That can be a nice way to allow the elbows and the shoulders to relax. So take your time. Do all the things because you're worth it, and we have plenty of time. So you don't need to rush. And of course, if you fall asleep, that's fine. But there are benefits to staying conscious in Shavasana. So I invite you to use the breath as a focal point. And use the inhale to burrow into that center point of the heart. And use the exhale to expand while still feeling that center point. We'll relax here for the next 10 minutes. Let yourself just be. Notice the part of you that can observe your body and your breath. Take a few breaths to just feel with how spacious that part of you truly is. When we're in this spacious state, things can't really get us in the same way. It's like we can just rise above our tensions. So I invite you to stay in this state as you start to make little movements, and take your time and enjoy the pathway up to seated without any rushing. Take the scenic route and find something to enjoy along the way. And then take your time setting up your meditation seat and be very kind to yourself. And I invite you to resist the tendency to sit how you always sit, and instead find what the hips are asking for right now. Adjust and wiggle and adapt. We did a lot of work in the hips, especially finding a lightness and a connection from our hips into the pelvic floor and the deep core. So just notice if this seat reflects that work, if it feels supported, if it feels integrated. Perhaps it's easier for the spine to stand tall and the neck and shoulders to be soft, or you might notice something different. Through our asana practice, we prepare the physical body to sit in this way so that we can let go of the physical body. And so once you find your seat, imagine your physical form dissolving, or all of your atoms just gently vibrating, and let your focus drop into the center of the heart. Start to feel how the breath massages the heart. And it's so easy to feel the expansion of the inhale. And so as you feel that, see if you too can feel the pinpoint heart center. It's like your awareness is in two places at once, the edges and the center. And then that work reverses on the exhale. It's so easy to feel the center point, that condensing and dropping in. play with feeling both that and a sense of reaching out and expansion simultaneously. Let yourself relax. Let yourself attune to the part of you that is not solid, but is vast, is pure flowing energy. And can begin repeating any of the lineage mantras, perhaps Om Namah Shivaya. Letting each repetition of the mantra help you connect to pure consciousness, your true nature, this vastness that's always present but sometimes hard to feel. If there's any sense of working or efforting in your practice, see if for this last moment can release that and truly let yourself be. And in the yogic tradition, your true nature is Sat Chit Ananda, pure being, pure consciousness, and pure bliss. You don't have to do anything or create anything. You can just allow these qualities to emanate from that deepest core of the heart that we've been connecting to. Can bring hands to heart center, bringing the outer body to meet at that single point, the innermost realm of our being. And gently bow to your own inner self. Thank you so much for practicing. Namaste. Thanks for being here. It was great to see you or to know that you were here. Enjoy the rest of your day and hope to see you soon. Aloha. See you later. Thanks for coming. Jatila, is the light in your house red? Kind of. It looks red. It's cool. I'll pretend you're in an infrared sauna. Hi, Mom. Thanks for coming. Your balancing looked awesome. Oh, I see that you unmuted, but I think our speakers are off, so I can't hear you. Sorry. Can you hit... I can't quite see. I'm trying to hit pause, but there's a mouse up there just on that screen.